Doctor, look.
Stand aside, nurse. I'm Dr. Homebrew.
Stand clear.
Welcome, everybody. It's Dr. Homebrew. We are back tasting some homebrews again. This is the final Dr. Homebrew of the year, which I'm pretty excited about. 2020 is going right down the drain, man.
Yeah, bye-bye 2020.
I know, it was pretty good. You can't really have that much fun in one year. You know what I mean? So 2021 is going to be...
Shouldn't be allowed to, yeah.
Yeah, we were living the dream. We have Brian Schaar and Brian Cooper here, of course. Welcome, boys. Good to see you guys again.
Hello.
Hello. And we're here to talk homebrew. But before we do that, I want to thank our sponsor, 5 Star Chemicals. 5 Star Chemicals, keeping your brewery safe and clean from any sort of nasty bugs and nonsense that you might leave around. You know, if you're not cleaning properly or whatever, use PBW, use Star San. They're going to get you through basically any brew day that you can I don't know, have? Yeah. Any brew day you can have, man. They're going to, anything that you can screw up or any piece of dirt or mung you can leave behind, PBW and Star San will get you through it. So check them out, 5starchemicals.com. They support this show. They love homebrewers in general. So why don't you go be a part of their family and start using their products today? Yeah, there you go. You can do that. We're joined by Patrick again. Patrick, what's going on, man? Welcome back, young man.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
And you sent us a Doppelbock. Is that right? That's what I have that right. Okay.
It is.
Nice.
Yes.
Is this your first round of Doppelbocks ever?
It is, yeah. So I, like last year, got into brewing lagers and have just been kind of working my way through. I've got a Märzen I really like and a Pilsner. And with it, getting into winter in Michigan, figured, something 9% or so would bode well. So
Yeah.
Figured I'd take a stab at this. But yeah, it's my first try and haven't had a lot of commercial examples, which is why I wanted to send it off to you guys and get some feedback.
Perfect. Yeah, it is sort of hard to find Doppelbock commercially. And then when you do, I think it's sort of like the one-off beers at the random truck stop brew pub that just doesn't really understand it. It's like, well, it's supposed to be syrupy and weird, right? So here it is. Here's the Doppelbock. Yo, you want it in a liter glass? Okay.
Is that an Oakley thing that you have like a brew pub at a truck stop that I haven't seen?
Oakley is known as the town of truck stops.
Well, okay. I didn't know that.
Actually, we have like 1,000 gas stations, so it does feel like a truck stop town. It's real weird.
If you ever are at a truck stop and you see a beer bottle with a little goat hanging off of it, grab that guy.
Yeah.
Little white goat. That's the Celebrator is every once in a while you'll see the Salvatore, but a lot of times the Optimator is the most the Paul Honor version is pretty present.
That's the one,
pretty easily.
Okay,
but they all have different various Optimators, a little darker, some of them go a little lighter, Celebrator's a little more reddish kind of brown.
Yeah.
And all tasty in their own way, and they tend to travel fairly well for beers coming that far.
Yeah.
Because they're nice and strong, and they can you don't want to necessarily age them, but you can get away with a little more abuse than you would with a something lighter.
Yeah, absolutely.
English bitter coming across the sea.
No, not at all. All right, well, let's just jump into this beer here. Why don't we just have Brian Schaar go first? Just because
I have quite a big enough pool to jump into the beer, but we got a little bit here. I'll try.
Just dump it on your head.
The Guinness Book of Records to jump into this. Maybe?
Yeah.
This is from the Winter Brews Fest 2014.
This is now a Warner Brothers commercial or cartoon. It's a
nice.
Looney Tunes.
This might be from the same, but it's worn off. Of course, those listening can't see what we're holding up here. Hopefully the Facebook audience is enjoying us.
Yeah, I think this was the year that Justin was giving them away because he ordered so many. And if you were like anywhere nearby, you could just give anyway. So Patrick, last time you were on, you talked about your homebrew club. And for people that may not be listening to that show right before this one, are you in a homebrew club?
I am. So I'm in the Brewskitos here in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Excellent. Grand Rapids was so much fun at NHC, and hopefully we'll be again someday. How warm is it in Grand Rapids right now?
We got our first decent snow last night, and then it warmed up and got sloppy, so it's in the 30s.
Oh, wow. That's like balmy for Michigan.
Yeah, go outside in shorts and a t-shirt.
Cool. Yeah, definitely shorts and t-shirt weather. So I liked your Doppelbock. This is a challenging style to brew because it's got a lot of fermentables. And I'll be curious to hear about your fermentation and how you dealt with that a little later. The bottles are maybe slightly low fill, but not a big deal. No points off for that. Aroma, I was surprised that there's kind of a low aroma overall. Low to medium malt kind of comes up as it warms. I didn't get caramel initially, but as it warmed up, I definitely got caramel. And kind of coming back to this now, I opened the second bottle thinking there might be some bottle variation. I'm getting a little more malt out of this bottle, but it might be that I've let it sit out in my kitchen for an hour. And that's probably why it's maybe a little more aromatic. We were kind of wondering, or thinking earlier, whether that caramel might be malt or diacetyl. And frankly, it's kind of on the border because it is almost a butterscotch. But again, that's when we talk about your process, it'll be maybe a little bit easier to pinpoint that. Sometimes I have like a normal sensitivity to diacetyl. I'm not super sensitive to it or blind to it. But sometimes, because it is butterscotchy caramelly, sometimes it can kind of hide where you're expecting like a little bit of a caramel character. No hop aroma, no roast aroma, no toast or that dark bread crust. I gave it a 6 out of 12. There were no, aside from potentially diacetyl, there are no off aromas. Appearance 2 out of 3. It was crystal clear, medium brown / dark copper with orange highlights. But there was really no head in either bottle from pouring. If there was any head, it was extremely short lasting. It was very short and did not last long. So that's why I knocked a point off at the 3 to a 2. Flavor. Initially, the flavor is malty at a low level with low alcohol flavor that follows. The second bottle, the first bottle, I had a lot of perceived alcohol, not in terms, maybe not a lot. I had like a low to medium amount of perceived alcohol in terms of flavor, not just warming. And it wasn't fusel, right? It was kind of a sweet ethanol that you get sometimes when you're brewing a high gravity beer. You will get that kind of ethanol sweetness, which is fine. Yeah, there's a little bit of that ethanol here in the flavor of this one. It's fine for this style. Low bitterness comes up mid-palate, but the balance all the way through to the finish is tilted toward malt. No hop flavor. It's very well attenuated. I'm not getting off flavors, again, other than possibly diacetyl. But it's missing that kind of rich malt / Maillard characteristic that you really want from a Doppelbock. And I'm wondering, again, I look at the overall impression. I gave it 10 out of 20 for flavor. Mouthfeel, 5 out of 5. Low to medium warming, low carbonation in body, creamy, no astringency. Overall impression, I gave it 6 out of 10 for a total of 29. I thought it was a well-made beer with no huge flaws. If there is diacetyl, to me, it's not one of those things where it's so bad it overwhelms the beer. It's something that you can maybe pick out if you're sensitive to it, but even then, I'm not entirely sure that it's there. It does miss the mark on the big, rich malt character, which is really the hallmark of this style. Because I get warming, I wonder if somehow, the fermentables just all fermented out. And we'll chat later. If you mash, mash higher, try to mash more like a 155 or something. So you have, maybe a few more unfermentables to give it some body. If you have time and patience and lost your will to live, you can decoct. Maybe you did decoct this. You can triple decoct if you're feeling really suicidal. But that's, I later on when we discuss this, I think I'm pretty confident we'll be able to hone in on how you can do a few things different next time. But again, at 29 out of 50, it's still good. I still am sitting here drinking this while we're talking about it. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah. All right, Cooper, let's do it.
All right. Yeah. So I tasted a colder sample just now too. And it came across more like what Shar just was describing to me, and but as it warms up, it changes. And I brought the first bottle that I just judged a little while ago out as well, and it's a fair amount warmer. I put it back in the fridge briefly, but it's warmer, and I'm probably gonna. Well, I'll comment a little bit about each. They're very similar. I think it's the difference. It's not a bottle variation. It's just a difference in the temperature of the beer. So in the nose, when I first poured it, I got a light, fairly light butterscotch-like aroma,
Yes.
with just a moderate light diacetyl, and it was up front in the warmer sample, distracting from some of the other elements. But the maltiness is firm otherwise. There's no hops here, as there shouldn't. It's not a hoppy beer by any stretch of the imagination. A fair hint of alcohol comes through. It's not sharp or harsh. No obvious esters here. It seems like the lagering was fairly well done. And I'm getting more of a toasty element than Brian is. But it's not super strong. There's some faint kind of Maillard byproducts in there, and a little toastiness. So there's some complexity here. The colder sample, it's harder to get at that complexity as well. So it's a balancing act between, when it's a little warmer, it's easier for me to get that buttery-like character, but then you lose some of the richness when you serve it too cold. It's actually a fairly pretty beer. It's a rich amber color with good clarity, a little bit of haze, but it has a low light tan head that's kind of easily roused, and it kind of rings the glass and at least settles to a kind of striations on the top of the beer there, mostly finer bubbles. So yeah, it's. I gave it a 2 for appearance. Likewise, just a little bit of haze, and it shouldn't necessarily have a massive head that stays forever because of the alcohol you have here. But yeah, it's could be improved a little bit with especially the clarity, and in the flavor. So yeah, when I got to the flavor, I got a little less of what I perceived as the butterscotch, and then I started second guessing myself and thinking, is that more of a caramelly like thing? So we're kind of. Sometimes it's hard to get at that, and you have to know your perceptions. And some people, like Brian said, are more able to taste diacetyl than others. Some can't taste it at all. Lucky them. They can drink crappy beer all day.
Yeah, they should be homebrewers.
No, but this is not a crappy beer at all by any stretch of the imagination. Pleasant maltiness in the flavor with less of that butteriness. There's still a little butterscotchy impression in the background, especially in the aftertaste. Just comes through a little bit, but the alcohol, so alcohol in here is a little bit prickly. It comes through medium high. Balance is definitely to the malt. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to pour some of the first sample in with this. Now this seems cold. I think that's the second one. We need to feel the bottles here. This is the warmer one. I put the cap back on it. I'm just going to.
Are you going to mix your own blend? Because that's totally your
top
thing.
It off here.
Yeah.
We'll try to up the.
It's the Solera Doppelbock.
It's a do-it-yourself.
We're not in Brussels here, Brian. Okay, this is not Cantillon.
Yeah, I'm not.
But it could
not enjoying the beer. It's actually quite tasty. So, finish is kind of semi-sweet. There's not much dark fruit character in here to speak of, or it's kind of obscured by the light defect that's there. I'm getting just a faint, lightly buttered toast in the aftertaste. I gave it a 12 out of 20 for flavor. Mouthfeel wise, medium full body with medium low carbonation, some moderate warmth, no astringency here, tiny bit of slickness on the tongue. I thought that's hard for me to get though. I don't really get diacetyl as slickness. I just get it as butter in the nose and the flavor.
Yeah, same.
But it does have a little
smoothie.
We'll ask JP what he gets there. But yeah, it's not really harsh or biting. It's not sharp, but yeah, it's comes through pretty full. It could go fuller too. It's but yeah, that alcohol warmth is pretty apparent. Seems like I have a good overall a good recipe going here, a good base, and especially for your first time making one of these, I know how hard they are to make. If you just remove that little diacetyl component. And I think that, it's, If you dried it out a little bit, I'm debating my own thoughts here, but if you dried it out a little bit more and took away just a bit of that semi-sweetness that's in there, it might let the toasty quality shine through a little bit more. Yeah, that might be a good way to go. Seems like you have a very nice recipe, and otherwise, good ingredients, the quality and the selections of what you put into it. And I think also in the second one, it came through as a little more chocolatey than toasty. There was a little bit of a hint of chocolate in there to me when it was a little colder, but I'm still getting it now as I mixed the warmer with the colder. I landed at a 30 on this beer. It's I would call it low end of very good. It's a drinkable beer. Is not quite to the classic style, but it's hard to get there. Yeah, unless you do the triple decoction won't hurt, but maybe you did. I don't know. It's a fun process. I've never actually decided to take one on myself. I've observed at times, and get a team of buddies together to stir that hot boiling mash.
That doesn't sound like fun.
Third of the mash.
Yeah.
And wear thick, heavy gloves if you do it. Just be real careful to protect yourself. You don't want a glop of that on your arm. But this is a very drinkable Doppelbock, and just could use a little bit of cleaning up. And you're getting there.
I was getting a lot of stuff you guys were getting. When I first opened it, I smelled sour, but it went away.
Really?
It gave it like 5 minutes, and I didn't get it anymore. I don't taste it. I don't smell it anymore, but there was like a definite I think this is going to be bad. But it's just to clarify again, it's not there. I thought that a lot of those Maillard, those toasty, those like toffee flavors, I think those were maybe a little too present for me in this. But I haven't had a Doppelbock in so long. I don't really know. I think I have no idea. I have no idea what way it should be. But
it could also be, when you have a commercial example and it has traveled that far and been sitting that long, it does tend to meld. The flavors tend to meld together a little bit more, and you get less of that rich, toasty, rich, malty, and more of a rounded kind of smooth maltiness.
And that's the thing to remember with tasting these beers from overseas, is that they've been aged for a month in the hot whatever. Patrick, when did you brew this?
This was brewed. Let me switch to my notes here real quick. This was brewed like the middle of October.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Wow.
So
like 2.5 months ago.
Recently. So this one I wound up rushing this to packaging a little bit to get to you guys. I would have probably lagered it a bit longer.
Okay.
And ordinarily would do like gelatin fining and that kind of stuff, but wanted to get it out the door. So the feedback is actually really helpful. I appreciate that.
Darn those Dr. Homebrew guys rushing your beer today. Send us your beer now.
Yeah, I do. I do cool. Like it. I think it's. Let's go through the recipe. I guess that's the next step.
Yeah.
Let's do that first.
Yeah, for sure. So used our standard water here in Grand Rapids, which is straight out of Lake Michigan. Did add a little bit of calcium carbonate and some baking soda to both the mash and the sparge. And I can pull up kind of the targets there, but I was basically targeting kind of a, typical German water profile. As far as the malts go, 8 pounds, about 9 ounces of Munich, 8 pounds of Pilsner, 1 pound and 9 ounces of Cara Munich, 5.5 ounces of aromatic, and then just shy of an ounce each of Black Patent and chocolate. And those were all Weyermann, where I could get Weyermann in the particular variety, and then, Briess for the other. And then at 60 minutes, 60 grams of Tettnang and 13 grams of Hallertau, and no other hops. As far as the yeast goes, this was actually my first time doing a lager with dry yeast. I wasn't able to get down to my local homebrew store with all of the COVID stuff, so I was able to order I've gotten, when I've ordered liquid yeast, it tends to come in really old. So I figured rather than do that, I would go with the dried yeast. So I did 3 packages of this SAF lager 3470 and just did a quick vitality starter with some chilled wort. And then when that was kind of doing its thing, pitched it at that point.
That's the nice thing about dry yeast. You can add about as much as you want, and it's not.
It's
well,
not like
cheap,
smacking.
right?
It's cheap,
Compared to the others,
Yeah.
it's like, I could put 600 billion cells in easily for, $15 or whatever.
Wow, way to brag,
sure.
Patrick.
Yep.
Jeez.
Nice.
So what do we think about his recipe? Everything is fine?
I like it.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like
it's pretty good.
there's not too much of the chocolate or the especially malts. You could play around with the balance there, but I thought the little chocolatey level there is nice, and
I
this
like it
is
too.
what a younger version of the Doppelbock is going to taste like. It's going to come across a little sharper and less rounded, less melded together, kind of. So I suspect this will be a nice one to sit on for a while.
What's the
If
age?
you did have to rush it out and you got a little diacetyl because of that, there may be some ways you could clean that up, but it's hard.
What's the
That's
age
fresh.
on a Doppelbock? How long should we wait to age them? Like, what would have been a perfect amount of time for this beer?
You can lager it at least a few months. You can let it go longer and let it lager in the keg too. If you just pull it off into the keg, it's lagering now too, kind of.
Yeah.
You didn't pull all the yeast out of there with your, you didn't fine it, so it's still sitting there on some of the yeast, and there's always going to be a little bit anyway. But yeah.
Okay.
Patrick, did you say what's your mash temperature? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I've been doing the forced diacetyl test with my beers lately, where I'll draw off a sample and put one in a warm water bath and one in the fridge, covered up with saran wrap or whatever, and then chill it back down. And actually, the beer I've got fermenting right now, it's pretty obvious where there's diacetyl precursors present. And I honestly can't recall if I did that with this or not, but definitely, I've tried the quick lager method, which I know JP is a huge fan of. But I tend to, when I've got enough beer in the draft system, I'll do a traditional lager. And when I'm looking to fill kegs, I'll maybe bump the process a little bit. This one fell kind of to the latter, just because I was trying to get it through and get the fermenter freed up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Patrick, did you tell us what your mash temperature was?
So it was targeted for 156 for 45 minutes, and I just shy of that. So like 155 and a half.
Okay. And did you decoct it all?
I did not.
Okay.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
No, nobody does.
No.
I have a 10-year-old who's my assistant brewer. And so the idea of him stirring boiling grains, that doesn't necessarily work. So
his mom might not be real keen on that either.
I'd be the one cleaning up the kitchen after the fact. So I'm not really into that either.
Okay, that's interesting, because that was my guess, is maybe your mash temperature was too low, which is why this was well attenuated but didn't taste quite as malty. But I don't know. I don't know.
I might have missed it. Were there some caramel malts in here? Were there any
I had
crystal?
some Caramunic in there.
The Caramunic, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because that could give you some of that caramelly-like flavor too. Yeah, but if it is diacetyl or butterscotch, it's really light. It's not too distracting.
Well, and the reason I asked about how long a beer like this should sit is it sort of pointless for us to be judging it now and giving feedback on it when it should probably hang out for a couple months?
Yeah.
Are we being too premature, which at our age is probably easier to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd like to taste it, the same one in another few months, but
Yeah, me
I just
too.
opened the last bottle, so I can't do that.
Oh, man.
But yeah, if you do another version of it where you lager it a little longer and we don't rush it to send us your beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also wonder, we're used to in homebrew world having lagers that are typically like the white, like WLP 833. That's the one, like Tasty loved that one. It's a very popular lager yeast. We're kind of used to drinking lagers with some of the same, some of the same top 3 or 4 lager yeasts, even though there's dozens of them to choose from. And I wonder if maybe this was just a really super efficient active yeast that broke down a lot of stuff, maybe that you wouldn't have wanted it to. I'm speculating. I'm trying to think of reasons why this is not richer. And maybe have you used that yeast before ever?
I haven't. I tend to use the various Y yeast German lager strains. So I'll use the Oktoberfest one for my Märzen and a Pilsner one. This actually finished around 1018. So it feels like it should have some body there. But as you guys are describing some of that, like the little bit of alcohol warming, and maybe that sort of slickness at the end, I wonder if maybe that doesn't detract from the body a little bit.
And a little bit of sweetness too. Yeah.
And I also wonder if a little more, the carbonation on this is lower than I would like. And I wonder if a little bit of carbonation would make it maybe seem a little, give it some more body and flavor and character. Lift some of those flavors out that are just sitting down in there now.
I think there's probably enough carbonation there, honestly.
Yeah, you're probably right. Again, I'm grasping at straws here.
It could make it harsher and more, the toastiness could be more biting and the chocolate could be more kind of astringent seeming, if you went too crazy with that. A little bit, maybe. Could try it. If it's in the keg, it's easy to try.
Yeah, but this is typically a low carbonation style, right? This is like so many of the big heavy beers. This is not meant to be like brilliantly super carbonated, high carbonation, 3 volumes, whatever.
At like a Coors Light level, dude, 2.8. Just
it can go as high as moderate carbonation. Some of the lower alcohol ones can get away with a little more, but the heavier hitters, you're not going to want to go crazy there.
Yeah.
So I got the one kind of question I did have. So when I first tried this, the impression I got from it was much more like a quad. Like I got a lot of that kind of plum raisin character and not having a lot of commercial examples. And my wife and I were supposed to be in Germany this summer and then COVID. So not having had it in the motherland to compare to, is that kind of the direction that like dark fruit kind of thing? Does that fit with this style? Was that something that was sort of out of bounds?
Those flavors will come out a little more from some of the Munich malts, and especially as some of the other more fresh qualities of the beer age out, that you'll probably find that it gets much more pleasant after a few more months. And just keep it in that keg and try it another month or two. But it is a nice beer to drink this time of year. So try it in February or something.
We've got months of cold weather. I've got plenty of time.
and you temp control your lagers. You don't just put it in the garage or something.
No. Actually, the garage now is too cold for lagering. No, it's so I was doing. I don't have it pulled up. Like high 40s, low 50s. Until I got about 80% attenuated, or to final gravity rather, and then bumped it up into the mid 60s, ramped it up for a diacetyl rest.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I believe that the caramel is from the Cara Munich and is not diacetyl, but that's one person's opinion.
That is a fact.
Especially if you went all the way up to 60 on it. It should take care of that.
Do you have anything else, Patrick, for the boys? Any other questions, comments?
No,
concerns?
I don't think so. I've got about half a keg of this left, so I'm going to leave it alone for another month and give it a try, a little later, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
As for the yeast too, I don't want to bag on dry yeast, but if you can get a freshly fermenting happy lager yeast, like in a quart jar from a local brewery or something that they just happen to have,
that would be nice. What I've always heard was that the dry yeast strains are chosen not for the flavors they kick off, but for how well they survive and rehydrate. Whereas
that
liquid
process,
yeast they're chosen more for the flavors. So my assumption with that is always going to be you're going to get less flavor with dry yeast than with liquid yeast. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's what I've heard.
I would try this recipe with the liquid yeast and a big starter at least, if you can, or brewery yeast.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like that's what you were going to do anyways,
Yeah.
Patrick. And then
my go-to is usually liquid yeast. It's just where we're at now, shelf stability kind of wins out. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And this is a good opportunity if you're wanting to brew more lagers. It's not best practice, but I've done it when doing big beers and lagers. Brew a Helles, essentially making a 5-gallon starter. Drink a keg, rack off that Helles you're going to drink, and then kind of gently pour out a lot of the liquid. You're going to have a big old yeast cake at the bottom, and do that like the day of or the day before you're brewing, and then just rack that wort right on top of that giant 5-liter or 5-gallon starter. And a beer like this, I don't know, especially if you can kind of taste a little bit of the beer, the lighter beer that you're taking off, even pre-carbonated, you'll know if there's anything wrong with it, or if that yeast is good. And if you like it, it'll probably be fine, and it'll give you those same type of good flavors with the bigger beer you're pitching on top.
Nice. That's a good idea.
Yeah. All right, Patrick. Well, we'll let you split.
Cool. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thanks for
Stay
sharing
warm.
all the beers. Yep. Send us some more beer someday if you get something else you want to taste.
Will do. Take care.
All right.
Cheers.
Bye, man.
Yeah.
Take care. Happy New Year.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, everybody. This is Dr. Homebrew. We're going to be right back with a commercial calibration beer. It is Anchor Christmas. And I'm pretty excited about this because Anchor Christmas is actually pretty good this year.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. I like it. Anyway, hang on. It's Dr. Homebrew. We'll be right back.
Ma'am, I'll need to take your top off for this examination.
Oh, doctor.
Hey, thanks for sticking around, everybody. This is Dr. Homebrew, and we're going to be hitting up our infamous commercial calibration segment that everybody looks forward to. Mainly just me, because then I get an excuse to drink beer. But right now we're going to be tasting Anchor Christmas from this year, 2020. And if you never had an Anchor Christmas beer because you're one of these people who goes like, I don't like spice beers, they're so gross. Like, shut up, grow up a little bit, pick up some Anchor Christmas. You might not like it still, but at least you're trying, because it does sort of change every year. But I thought this would be a good commercial calibration. What style guideline is this? What entry number is this?
Well, it's a winter seasonal. They call it a winter warmer. The base style. It's a spiced winter warmer.
Okay.
But you would judge it. What is that category? You need to find that.
They've definitely changed it from a few years ago, because it used to be much more of a lighter colored beer and much more heavily spiced. And as their website says, this is the darkest it's ever been. And it's also the most alcoholic. This is a 7% ABV, and they say it's never been this high.
Wow. What are they doing over there, man? That is really dark. I've never noticed this. First of all, kudos to you for going to a website. I've never done that before. I don't know what that's about. I would never have known. Yeah, because usually there's like ruby highlights, I think, in this beer. But 7%.
This is the 46th time they've released it. They've been doing it since 1975. First time they put this.
The malt hops and dry hops are top secret, and they do say that the recipe is heavily guarded and confidential.
Yeah, I saw that part too.
I have it here.
I went to a website as well. You have the recipe?
Probably went to the same one.
I wish I did, man. Various pine needle extracts.
This is substantially dark. It's usually more of a reddish color.
Yeah.
So this is a bit of a departure from previous iterations.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, Brian Cooper, why don't you go ahead and relieve Brian Shar of his going first duties?
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, so a lot of times in a winter seasonal beer, what you want is something that reminds you of holiday baked goods. And this one does, it comes across as like a gingerbread cookie kind of a thing, like a little kind of a nutmeggy kind of gingery spice quality to it. And the base beer, there's some dark malt coming through, but it's not roasty. It's kind of, just a rich kind of dark chocolatey malt kind of flavor or aroma so far. I haven't tasted it yet. But yeah, the You get a little alcohol for sure in the nose on this one. It's not wimpy. It comes alongside that spice, and there's a nice balance there. You can get kind of you should probably not drink this super cold, and I might not have let it warm up enough, but I'm already getting a little bit of a molasses-like kind of note in the nose.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, it's a very good, like, baked good quality, and it's not a spice bomb at all. It's just slightly spicy. And yeah, if you're, a super ginger fanatic and you make your gingerbread cookies with twice the amount of ginger, or 3 times that everybody else does, not everybody's going to like those cookies. So, and I don't think they're trying to please the masses here with it being too lightly spiced. It's just trying to find that balance between the base style.
Yeah, it is a weird beer because not everybody likes spiced beers, but a lot of people buy Inca Christmas. It's sort of like, I don't know, what else do you feel forced to buy? Mistletoe or, eggnog or whatever, right? It's one of those things like, well, I got to pick this up, my 1 6-pack a year. Most people I know who drink this, it's like, yeah, I get it that one time, and that's about it. I'd love to see sales numbers on these from year to year.
Yeah. And then in the flavor, I'm getting, it's got kind of a leathery, like more vanilla, some vanillins coming in, like a wood-like character. And I don't know if they do some wood aging on this, but it wouldn't surprise me. It's got a little bit of, some of it could be, some elements of the spice coming through as well. A little bit of a spice phenolic kind of grabbing your tongue and in the mouthfeel, giving that kind of leathery feeling that you would get from a wood aged beer. But it's pleasant. It's not too sweet. It's dry enough that the spice that is there comes out cleanly. This is another one like the Doppelbock we just tasted, that if you let it age, it's going to taste a lot different. Yeah. And you could save some of these beers and do a vertical year after year, and try to it's not always the same recipe, of course, but you see what how well they taste over the years. I've got a buddy down the street who has actually a library of these things in his freaking fridge door. He's got from the very earliest ones. I think he's offered to let us taste through that one time. And now that we got this, I'd like to do that. Take him up on that when things open up again. For
sure. Me too. I would love to do that as well.
We'll do a live remote broadcast from his house.
Yeah, for sure. Did we ever figure out what category this was?
It would be a 30B.
30B.
Winter. Yeah. 30C, winter 30C. Seasonal beer.
Okay.
Yeah, because the 30s are the spiced beers. So 30A is just the spice or vegetable. 30B is autumn seasonal beer, like your pumpkin spice beers. And then 30C is winter. So this one doesn't, it's not a pumpkin spice latte or beer.
Yeah.
It's
interesting.
Definitely a winter oriented beer.
In appearance,
the alcohol's smooth. That's here. 7%.
In appearance, it says, very medium amber to very dark brown. Darker versions are more common, but this is darker than very dark brown.
Yeah, but it's nice because it doesn't taste like a porter. The rich dark malts that they put in here are just coming across as like what I think of as a winter warmer, like the English style of kind of, you can have some molasses-like character and some, some chocolatiness, but not rich and biting chocolate at all. Toffee and nutty. It's got a mix of a lot of different things, but it's not. Yeah. It doesn't seem like a porter or a stout at all.
No.
Yeah, nice warmer.
And you're talking the aroma. They say anything that suggests the holiday season is appropriate. So mulling spices, gingerbread, Christmas pudding.
Yeah. Disco parties,
That's right, yeah.
You got to go to Studio 54 when this is all over, Brian?
Beer has glitter in it. Yeah, no.
It seems like a wide open category for that. Basically just a dark, alcoholic, malty beer with whatever you want in it, as long as it's reined in properly.
Yep.
But, you mentioned molasses, and as the beer is warming up, it's sort of like too much molasses for me. The molasses is, and I don't know if it's because you mentioned it or not, but it's sort of just coating the tongue.
Yeah, it is richly. It's got that kind of not burnt sugar, but that darkened sugar syrup kind of quality to it.
It almost
And
tastes
I'm not-
like
yeah.
it almost tastes like what was that? The coloring additive that was going around, Sinmar.
Cinnabar,
Yeah, and it was supposed to like not have any flavor, but give you color for things like the dark lager or whatever. But if you add too much of it, it sort of does taste like concentrated astringency, and this is sort of that's the flavor that I'm getting. So I wonder if they used Cinnamar in this.
I wonder. Yeah,
This is
or
how I'm
some
leaping to
sugars.
conclusions. Yeah, I really need to be part of QAnon, man, because I just jumped to all these conclusions. Well, this has a flavor, so it must be this thing, and nobody can tell me different. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna morph over time and become a little more of the toffee-like edge than that rich molasses that it is up front now. So that might be intentional. I'm sure it is intentional with their recipe, but it's not unpleasant, and it's not like a Belgian quad-like character. It's just it's in that English vein, the molasses treacle kind of flavors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I wonder if they make this beer to sort of find that line between like the casual beer drinker and the weird ass beer nerds like us, because you don't want to be too offensive for the casual beer drinker, but you want to give some sort of like flavors for the beer nerds who are going to age this. There's a lot of questions I have about this beer.
Yeah. If you can drink this, if you're just a casual beer partaker that's not like a beer judge like us, and you get this beer and you drink it, and maybe the most special beer you've ever had before this was a Guinness, and you enjoy this beer, you have some appreciation. You might have potential. We can tell you how to become a beer judge if you do want to do that. But
all right. So Brian Shar, do you agree with everything that Brian Cooper's saying?
Of course.
Good. I love it. It's my favorite.
Yeah, I think
wood character at all?
I get tannin, but I'm not sure that I get oak tannin. I think it's maybe more from the spices, because it's maybe more drying. It's a little bit different tannin character, and there are some herbs that are spices that are like that will just kind of be on your tongue that way. And I think, going back to what we were just talking about accessibility, I think Anchor a few years ago definitely changed this to be more accessible to be drank early on. So I think early on in this, up through probably even 2010, early 2010s, this beer was so spiced, so heavily spiced, you almost had to age it for 5-6 years just to have it be what it was supposed to be. And aside from hardcore beer geeks like us, regular people don't have a place to store. They're not going to be interested in storing beer for 6 years to see the brewer's vision or something. What's interesting, there's the mystery about this beer. I was kind of joking about it earlier, but it is kind of interesting. There used to be around the Bay Area anyway, this theory that the tree that was on the label, there's always a different tree on the label every year, that something, the species of tree, there was going to be something associated with that. The wood or the fruit or the nuts or something were part of the spice that was going in there.
Huh.
And that's nonsense, of course.
Are you
but
crying,
still,
Brian?
it's
You
fun
all right?
to think about.
Yeah. The Three Graces
one
is
of-
this one.
The Three Graces.
And then it says some Latin bullshit, which, I'm not trying to read some Harry Potter crap, dude. Come on. All right,
Yeah,
so...
but in general, I agree with Brian. The aroma, I definitely get some like pine, spruce, not overwhelming, but I get like hints of that. I'm guessing that this is an American brown as a base style, but not as highly hopped. Because the American brown shouldn't be roasty toasty. It should have some chocolate character, some brown ale character, but it's not a big roasty hop or a big roasty toasty bomb, and this is not.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that's like a base work for this.
I mean, it's possible.
That reminds me a little bit of beers like the Snowcap Ale that Pyramid used to make. That was to me just a winter warmer.
Yeah.
And that one was around 8%. So it was a little sweeter and a little more syrupy. The only thing I would say that I would improve maybe on this would be to let a little more sweetness come through, and it's going to play off the spice and that that molasses is going to be as sharp and harsh up front if you don't want to age it. But it's not harsh beer. It's still fairly smooth right out of the bottle. But
yeah, it's definitely not harsh beer, but it does have edges on it. The tannin, I think either like you were saying, Shar, from the spices, or maybe it's some intentionality. I don't know, but that pokes with the molasses, and it doesn't really jive well. I don't like that heavy molasses part. I don't know what that is. I mean, I'm sure it's some combination of malts, and not to say that the Anchor team doesn't know what they're doing, but because to me this is obviously intentional. I don't think if I was judging this beer as a 30C. I don't know, because we're talking, mouthfeel. Body is generally medium to full. Certain malty chewiness is often present. Moderately low to moderately high carbonation is typical. I don't know, man. I mean, generally medium to full and certain malty chewiness. Is it malty? Is it a malty chewiness, or is it molasses? Is it like a dried molasses finish?
I'd say it's malty, but it's not full. It's maybe medium body.
Yeah.
I think if they ramp this up to 8%, I mean, they'd have some considerations to, some trade-offs to make, because not everybody's going to want to buy that 8% 6-pack to sip in the, as a matter of course.
Yeah,
but and it would probably be a better beer to me. So a little sweeter, a little
for
more
sure
oomph to it.
But that's never Anchor Christmas, and I think that's part of the reason why we chose this beer, because it is very hard to categorize. Because it's sort of like it's its own thing, and as homebrew judges, we need to categorize stuff. Like that's what we have to do. I have to tag this as a certain thing, but it doesn't really fit in, because it's just, I don't know. It's not necessarily all of these things, but it's still a good beer. But it still needs some work, and I don't know, man.
Check out the head and the legs on this thing. Even 20 minutes after pouring it, 15, 20 minutes. I swirled it to be sure, but
yeah.
Do you guys get cardamom in the flavor? Not at a high level, but you get cardamom.
You mean now that you say it, yeah, maybe you're identifying the thing I'm talking about. It's like evergreen with the tannin, which for me was like, oh, that's sort of like oak, but maybe it is more like cardamom. Yeah, maybe
like a woody kind of spice in there. Yeah, for sure.
And this is a good example, Jason, of exactly what I always talk about on the show, is that taste is such a malleable and suggestible thing. That you can be drinking something, you could be drinking anything, and your wife or your buddy's like, hey, this tastes like blank. And all of a sudden, that's all you can taste.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the most annoying thing.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's wrap up here with this guy. We talked about mouthfeel. Did we cover flavor at all? I think we pretty much hit that on the head, huh?
Yeah. I agree with Brian mostly. And I was just kind of, with the head, I was just impressed with the fact that this beer has a really stable, really long-lasting low head.
Yeah, and it's a rich color too. The head is pretty dark.
And usually spices will kill the head a lot of the time, and it really didn't on this.
Do you think it's balanced? Is it a balanced beer?
I think the balance between the spice and the and the base style is good. Mm-hmm. The balance between with the dryness and playing off the dark sugar kind of character to it is less balanced. Yeah. So there's different angles you can go with. It's multidimensional, the balance of the beer. So spice to beer is fine, but I think and just the fact that they're taking it a little stronger, maybe they're going a different direction with the beer and heading towards something for next year that we'll get to taste. And we should just make a tradition to do this every December. I don't know.
I think it'd be fun.
For that.
All right, well, let's grade it. Let's give it a score. Judging it as a classic example of the style, which it is. It's the number one. It's the very first, and I'm sure there's no weight to it, like commercial examples of the style.
They alphabetized by brewery, so it's
okay.
Anchor,
Well, there
so
you go. Yeah, but it's a classic example of the style, obviously. So, what would we judge this as? As a 30C, a winter seasonal beer.
I think with a little more age, this would probably get into the lower 40s for me, but right now it's upper 30s.
I would say 35,
I would
36.
say right now this is upper 30s for me, which is pretty good. I would...
Give me a number, cowards. Give me a number, cowards. Don't be afraid. Give me a number.
38.
38. Brian
38.
Cooper? 38. I would say 36. I'm not afraid. I don't care.
I'm not afraid either.
Yeah.
And I want to thank Cooper for muling a couple of bottles up to me yesterday because They didn't make a lot this year. I called the Good Beer Store in Lafayette, and they're like, no, they didn't have a big run of this beer this year, and we sold out a while back. And Cooper thankfully had like a 6-pack, and I appreciate you bringing it over, man.
Yeah.
That was very
Brian
nice.
Cooper had this bottle of beer in his ass for 4 years. Yeah, I would give it a 36 because it is a little too bitter. It's a little too sharp. It's a little too, I don't know. It's not really great.
With some age, it's going to round out a little bit better. But yeah, it's weird. I've seen JP face to face a couple months ago, and I brought you some beers, and now I've seen Brian face to face, and he was not wearing a mask. Oh,
Brian
my mask was in my car, and we did stay separated like 15 feet.
I honestly would have got back in the car and drove away.
You were like 6, but you were a floor above me, so all of your COVID was raining down on me.
I was coughing and hacking and hey, Brian, hey Cooper, and just making sure all my spit came down off the balcony. Now Brian very kindly set it down at the bottom of the stairs away from me. We chatted at a distance.
What an absolute turd you are.
We were responsible adults.
Yeah, good.
We shouldn't joke. I felt very safe. I'm not.
Yes, I keep my masks in the car because that's where I'm going to use them. I don't want to leave it in the house because I'll forget, so I put it in the car.
Yeah.
So I got like 3 masks in my car.
What do you do when someone knocks at the door?
What's that?
What do you do when someone knocks at the door?
No one knocks at my door.
Oh, okay.
Now Brian can explain. I'm on a hill, and I'm in an apartment over a garage, and it's not like people are coming.
You're the
people are
Fonz.
delivering shit. They just like leave it on the porch.
Yeah, you're the Fonz of the beer judge world.
Hey, yeah. Actually, I am the Fonzie of beer judging. That's exactly right.
Yeah, sure.
What are the
I jumped the shark about 3 years ago.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break. Let's take a quick break, everybody. We'll become right back. On the Good Talking Show for Dr. Beer's Homes. We'll be back at good times.
Hello, fellow BNers. This is Sully from the 21st Amendment Brewery located in San Francisco, just 2 blocks from Giants Park. Before Nico and I opened the 21A and before I was a professional brewer, I homebrewed on my small 4-burner apartment stove in a back house in Santa Monica, California, making my extract brews before graduating to the daunting idea of all-grain brewing. Homebrew books and information was hard to come by back then. The internet hadn't been invented yet, along with other things we take for granted today, like electricity and potable water. One thing I wish I had back then when I was learning was a radio show that could teach me the ins and outs of brewing and answer questions that I had about homebrewing, a resource for making great craft beer. The 21st Amendment Brewery is excited to be a proud sponsor of Dr. Homebrew, a great show that teaches you what you need to know about making incredible beer. Good stuff. Listen up, you might learn something. I certainly did. And thanks for your support. Tasty Crack Kings.
The leader in affordable, high-quality kegerators is here. Introducing Komos, the kegerator designed with serious beer drinkers in mind. It features an all-stainless steel draft tower, a major upgrade over traditional chrome-plated brass towers, and Komos keeps your new tower cold with their air-cooled tower fan, wrapping your beer lines in frigid coolness. Your beer is poured from innovative forward-sealing faucets that don't leak, so they stay cleaner for longer. Dual gas inlets on the rear of the fridge allow you to run both CO2 and nitrogen gas. Serve your beer with CO2, serve your kegged wine, or even cocktails with nitrogen. The digital temperature display has the largest range available, allowing you to use the Komos Kegerator for fermentation if you need to. And now Komos Kegerators ship with duo-tight draft fittings for that click-to-connect assembly we've all dreamed of. Buy direct from KomosDraft.com and receive free shipping on your order. That's KOMOS Draft.com.
Dr. Homebrew, please report to the ER for code blue. Dr. Homebrew to the ER, please. Oh, and your tea time has been moved to 2:30.
Now back to Dr. Homebrew.
Thanks for hanging around, everybody. It's Dr. Homebrew. We're just doing a quick wrap-up here, making fun of Brian Shar, and because that's
wouldn't you?
The best thing to do. We're out of beer to judge. The next thing to do is poke Brian Shar in the head with a sharp stick.
I'm going to send some Jehovah's Witnesses to your door, and just so we can, and then we'll film it secretly and see how you react to that situation. Because
We've
Yeah,
replaced
I don't
his normal Sunday missionaries with Jehovah's Witness. Let's watch.
What are they doing this year? I wonder. Yeah, I don't know.
I do
They're
like
probably
the
wearing
Sacred
masks
Christmas,
and
man.
stepping back 5 feet from the door and handing maybe rubber band in the watch. I had a watchtower like attached to my door.
Yeah,
That's cool. Whatever. That's
They
fine.
still got to do their thing and get the word out. Yeah.
That's cool.
Man, people leave.
But we get the word out about beer. And
That's right.
the word is, if you want to send beer to us, email Brian@thebrewingnetwork.com. That's Brian with an I at thebrewingnetwork.com and send us your beer because we need it.
We're looking for a few
Please.
good beers.
Well, yeah, you know what? And someone was like, "Oh, how do I send my braggot or whatever?" Brian at the Brewing Network. We will literally judge anything that you send: wine, kombucha, fucking hard tea, seltzer,
A dead
whatever,
rooster you let sit in your wort and wild ferment.
whatever you want,
Yeah. bring it.
anything. We will literally judge anything. That's where we are. That's how we do it. I'm looking through the chat right now because we do have an active chat today, and it's very nice.
Oh,
It's
cool.
mainly Blobber. Blobber resurfaced.
Hey, Blobber. How are you,
Yeah.
man?
What's up?
We have chat.
Yeah, well, on Facebook, man.
Yeah, okay.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
We have 19 viewers on Facebook right now, and I
Oh.
thank every one of you guys for and ladies. I mean that
That's
in a
funny because
gender-neutral way.
once we
for
started-
tuning in and watching this.
Once we started, we had 31. So
I know.
what are you
I
gonna
drove
do?
them all away.
All right, let's get out of here, everybody. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Appreciate it. If you are watching live, give us under 5 minutes to start the next show, and we'll be right back. We're going to be doing Cooper. What are we doing? You're my producer. What are we doing for this next one?
Man, we've got some great stuff coming up. It's the all cider episode. We're
I love
gonna
it.
we're gonna judge a cider, and we're gonna talk about ciders with a nationally a ranked cider judge, a good friend of ours named Pavel. So
Cool.
looking forward to that.
All right.
Brian, would you say we have a record number of entries in cider on this show?
On our next show,
Yeah.
that'll
Yeah.
be. When is the last time we've had a cider?
It's been a while, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Years.
Well, and this feels right for winter too. So yeah, stay tuned. Flip to the next episode if you're just going through the podcasts here. And
I'm just going to
be
say
well, everybody.
that was
Stay safe.
probably the funniest thing I've ever been a part of in my entire life. You know that story, Cooper? Were you
What's
at that
that?
NHC? When someone, I think it was poor Janice Gross years ago.
Yeah, it was Janice
we
Gross.
got to this. They got to the cider category, and she goes, "Oh, ciders! And we have a record number of entries in cider." And I literally, like, the room was quiet. I go, and then and then it sort of spread, and then I tell her at the table, and then it sort of spread out to the room. I swear to God, it was like that scene in Stand By Me with the pie eating contest. And then he started throwing up, and then he started throwing up, and it was just this thing. It made me feel real.
Or like,
It
yeah,
was maybe
starting
your
a
crowning achievement, JP.
I really do
slow
think
clap.
so.
And
Oh man!
everybody joins in. Yeah.
And the next year and the year after that, I kept waiting for it, but it was no one ever said anything. So I think they knew. I think it was very awkward. I feel sort of bad. Anyway, we're gonna get out of here, everybody. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and until next time, we'll see you later. Email Brian@thebrewingnetwork.com, and he might send you feet pics. You never know.
I might send you a long email back too.
Mike.